Ready?
Let's do it.
Alright, we're live. Wow, that was fast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Wars of the Stars, episode, what is it, 31, I believe? Episode 31. Today, we're going to re-review Iron Man 2 and talk about What If, episode 3, a very excited and mysterious episode of What If. I had a fun time watching it. Alex, go to turn to you. How was your day, my man?
Long day at school, but other than that, it was fine.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do much today. I got prepared to do this stream and other stuff. Alex and I, if you didn't know, we have our Spider-Man No Way Home reaction where Alex punctured my eardrums. I can no longer hear.
I broke the sound barrier.
If you watch the podcast, you'll tell that we can't even hear Doc Ock saying hello, Peter, because Alex is just clapping and screaming as loud as he can. But it was a great moment. I had seen the trailer the night before, so I kind of knew it was happening. It was cool to see it in its glorious 4K quality.
Yeah. So, yeah, agreed.
Crazy.
Great trailer. Favorite trailer of all time.
Wow, that's an extremely hot take. So, I guess without further ado, we're going to get into our first topic, Iron Man 2. So Alex and I rewatched this movie over the weekend. I'll turn to my co-host first. What did you think about this movie before you rewatched it?
I thought it was a forgettable movie. I remembered liking some parts of it, but ultimately didn't think that it was like some blockbuster movie. I think it was a very disappointing sequel. I feel like I felt how people feel about The Last Jedi. Wow, what a major disappointment. But what did you think about the movie before rewatching it?
Yeah, so I only liked the last 30 minutes of this film. So basically the final fight at Stark Expo.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably an MCU movie that I've rewatched a surprisingly large amount of times because it's so old. And I know this was around the time my brother was younger. So I surprisingly watched a lot, like the older Raimi trilogy Spider-Man movies. So I'd seen this movie a lot, and it's just kind of been it's not good. It's not great. I will say my opinion changed drastically on this rewatch.
Oh, I'd say mine too.
A lot of things, not from a rating perspective, but just some certain things that I surprisingly liked more and surprisingly liked way less. So the movie still, I'm going to go into what I think now, but it was always a bottom tier MCU film to me. Without further ado, Alex and I like to do this in where we talk about the good, the meh, and the bad. Let's start with the good. We'll go to Alex first. What do you got good about this film?
The movie ended. I'll be 100% honest with you. I can't name a single positive about this movie. Not even Tony Stark was good enough to save this movie. I think for a possible good that could have come is I think there was a lot started in this movie that if they followed through in the movie would have been really cool. I think his whole thing with him dying was something that they kind of played up for forced tension, and then he kind of just solved within a few scenes. So I don't know. I can't really name anything massively great about this movie. I'll pass it over to you if you can try, but
I think I know where you're going. I think the underlying storyline with Tony and his alcoholism and him dying, basically. So what I think the Iron Man trilogy does a good job of is it doesn't focus on superhero problems. It focuses on actual real people problems. Tony, obviously, in the next movie, Iron Man 3, has severe PTSD, like anxiety attacks. It's a very real thing people have.
yeah.
He also, in the first movie, it's about him finding purpose, trying to find redemption for himself, trying to almost remediate, uh, a part of his life. So I think the Iron Man movies do a good job of that. And I think this movie, that underlying storyline with him dying, and I think all the conversations that come out of it, I think you mentioned this after we watched the film, that scene with Pepper. And I didn't even think about the strawberries. He talked about the strawberries, how the strawberries, she's allergic to them. Tony was going there to tell Pepper he's dying. Uh, and the metaphor, the allegory with the strawberries, I didn't even think of it. So props to you on that. And I also like the conversation he has with Natasha, which is a bad. We'll go into that later. Where he's like, "What would you do if it was your last birthday?" And that conversation was good. But that underlying storyline was good. The rest was, we'll get into it. So we'll continue with you, Alex. You got any meh for this movie?
I would say the Pepper and Tony dynamic in this movie was pretty meh. It wasn't as strong as it was in Iron Man 1 or as good as it is in Iron Man 3 and almost every other movie they're together. Specifically Endgame and whatnot. But, yeah, I thought the relationship was good. And again, you brought it up, and I did mention the metaphor of him bringing in the strawberries. That, yeah, he went to Pepper in the building, in the room where she first helped Tony as Iron Man, with the underlying threat of Obadiah. He went there to go tell her that, yeah, I'm dying. To basically tell her that, her being the CEO of Stark Industries, all of that, was because he was dying, and he didn't have anyone else to pass his legacy on to. And so, I mean, even then, we see very underlying things, and I should honestly say that is a meh for me, or a good, is that underlying thing of Tony's death coming. Because again, he was telling, Rhodey that, Iron Man doesn't have a sidekick, but War Machine, on the other hand, he could have a sidekick. Basically, a lot of these very underlying things that he says to people, like, that kind of make you turn your head, like, what do you mean by Iron Man can't have one, but do you want to become War Machine? If Iron Man doesn't have a sidekick, why are you offering me the role as basically Iron Man 2.0? Oh, because Iron Man's dying from the very thing that's keeping him alive. But I think the thing with Pepper was, really good. One of my favorite, like, just great scenes was the scene where he promotes her to CEO, and he's like, "Are you sick? I'm gonna need you to stand back. Can you, like, do you have a face, like, do you have a mask that you can put on around me?" Like, first of all, it's too close to home right now in the pandemic, but yeah, just I love the relationship in this movie. It's one of my favorite deleted scenes in the entirety of the MCU. Is the beginning was redone completely. It was instead gonna have us have more context to Tony jumping out of the plane. Where basically it was him and Pepper arguing in the whole "I'm not on my cycle, Pepper" thing. So again, it would have opened with basically him throwing up in a toilet and everything would proceed as normal. But yeah, love the relationship in this movie. What do you think about it?
Absolutely. I think it's a more underrated relationship. Obviously, Tony and Steve are the most prevalent characters in the MCU. And I feel like after Iron Man 3, Pepper just disappears. She's in Infinity War for a scene, and then she's in Endgame a little bit. Like after 2013, when Iron Man 3 comes out, it's pretty much non-existent for 6 years. So what I appreciate about the first few phases of the MCU, and especially Iron Man and them, is their relationship. It's very underrated, especially since it's older. In this movie, it's not as good as the first Iron Man, and not as good as Iron Man 3, especially. That's I think, in my opinion, Pepper's best movie.
Yeah.
I think you would agree with that too. Um, so yeah, I what I really think about this movie is for every single character in this Iron Man trilogy, so Rhodey, uh, Tony, and Pepper, it's all their worst movies.
Yeah, like by a long shot.
Yeah, I don't even. Again, I think Robert's great as Tony.
Even
I just
then,
think this is a, his worst performance, and it's not bad. It's just his worst performance in a universe where he has a lot of great performances.
yeah. I mean, I think here's the thing: is I bring this up a lot when we talk about us rewatching these movies. Is our Google slide that we have. I primarily am the one who uses it, however, um, and what the big thing for me is, I don't have I always try to have best character or breakout character of this movie. Iron Man 2 is the only movie where I have not applicable on, because I don't think there's a good character in this movie. I think this movie struggles with character development and character progression. I think Tony had a good storyline with him dying, but I I think that it went away too soon. I wish it would have been a thing that was a little more prevalent through the movie. Like, he was checking his blood toxicity a lot, but I just feel like we could have gotten more, if that makes sense. So, yeah. That's my meh to bad. But
I couldn't hear a word he just said. He went squeaky again.
that's on your end on Discord. On OBS's end, it's fine. So that's on you.
Can't hear you.
I don't know, but Drew, do you got any more bads you want to talk about with this movie? Because there's a lot of stuff to go over with bads. Guys, we're gonna get audio fixed. We're gonna be.
I can't hear you, man.
We'll be right back. We are having some weird audio problems. Give us 1 second. Let me do something really fast. Nope.
Alright, I guess I'll go. I don't know if you guys care or not, but I guess my bad.
Guys, we're having some problems. We'll be back in a sec. All right, and we're back. Oh,
Okay, perfect. Alright.
Oh, my camera's not on. There it is. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties. We're back.
Yeah. Alright, so I guess Alex was last asking me about the bad.
Yeah.
If I have any bad for this movie. I have a lot of bad.
Oof. There's a lot of bad about this movie.
I have a lot of bad. Natasha was bad in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, she was bad, but she was also bad, if you know what I mean. But, yeah, she just wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, she was just there.
Yeah. I agree. It's just, she kind of felt there. Her purpose was to be sexy. Let's be real here.
I mean, literally, there's a scene where Happy is like,
Yeah, he's like looking in the mirror, trying to like distract her, and she's like, eyes on the road. It's like, come on now. I get it, she's hot and whatnot, but that's a terrible role to get in. I don't know why Scarlett would take that role. I
Because
don't
she was
know.
probably told she was going to be a superhero.
Bad superhero at that. But
Right.
well, in this movie at least, she became a good character, but bad superhero in this movie. Um, yeah, just not good, not good.
Yeah, she doesn't do much in this movie. It's a really weird introduction. As much as it's weird to say, I think Hawkeye's introduction is better, and he has like a minute of screen time in the Thor movie.
Yeah,
Like Black Widow could have just been like a thing we see very quickly. Like the hallway scene's great, but it's like everything prior to that, I just don't care.
yeah, I agree, 100%.
It's not her being a badass spy or her doing cool spy stuff for Shield. It's her basically being just Pepper's personal assistant, doing nothing. Pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree. Uh,
Well,
oh yeah, keep going.
I guess I should state the obvious. The villains.
Not very good.
Especially Justin Hammer. I heard some people say they want Justin Hammer to come back for Armor Wars.
No way.
Nope. 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 Sorry. That was bad.
That was a bad.
I know he was there. I know he was there for comedic relief, but nah.
Not all comedic relief is good comedic relief.
Right.
So, agree. Justin Hammer, Whiplash, very bad villains, very bland villains. I dare say, they are as bad as Malekith.
Yeah, for sure. Like Whiplash, I kind of understand it, but again, we talked about this after the movie. The villain has to be threatening to our hero. Whiplash loses twice.
Yeah, and you even brought this up. He is the first villain to ever just lose twice to the protagonist in one movie.
And the final fight is like he dies within a minute that he gets in the suit.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, I can't think of a villain in Star Wars, Marvel, where that's ever happened, where they just straight up lost, like crushingly lost. Like when I think of it, I think of a good like hero win or hero loses, hero wins is Spider-Man in Homecoming. He gets demolished by Vulture in their first fight
Yeah.
when he has the building fall on him. But then in that second fight, he wins, like in a great battle too, or not great. We don't get to see much of it, but it's still good. And another one is, I would say at least, is I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think one where someone loses a bunch is Cap in Winter Soldier. He loses a lot in that movie. He doesn't he in a sense wins because he breaks through to Bucky, but we don't get this thing of like, oh my god, like we just lost, or oh my god, we only win only win like we do in this movie.
Right.
I think honestly the best heroes lose and then heroes win is Thanos. I mean when the heroes lose, they lose.
Oh, they lost bad.
Like I think the best visual thing to ever happen in the MCU is the fact that in Infinity War, at the end battles, after Thanos snaps, both Captain America and Iron Man are sitting on their asses defeated. Like,
Yeah.
just they're on the ground, and the last words spoken, I believe, in Infinity War is Cap saying, "Oh God." And
Yeah. He literally sees his best friend die, like right in front of his eyes.
yeah,
Like you know
he's-
it's bad then.
He's sitting in front of Vision, dead.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and then he also just sees Bucky get dusted away.
And then Tony like literally loses everyone. He literally like loses the kid that he's meant to protect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with that,
That
for sure.
That and then of course in Endgame they get the stones, they bring everyone back, and it's this huge epic battle, and Tony makes the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
That is the case of heroes failing and then winning. There was threat
It's
there.
it's the classic hero's journey. Luke goes through it. Luke absolutely goes through it. Luke.
Anakin goes through it with Dooku.
Yep.
Rey goes
Rey
through
goes
and through
through
with
it.
Kylo. She loses almost every fight to Kylo. I mean, she kind of does lose every fight to Kylo, but it's still, in a sense, she she won the last duel. Even though Kylo dominated the duel, at the end of the day, she was the one standing on top. Again, whether it was a dirty win or not, she still won. But
Right. A win's a win.
yeah, yeah. And I think we see that a lot. But with this, it's like you said, Whiplash, he was not threatening, not in the slightest bit. Faulty arc reactor and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah, like the whole setup is that he has good enough brains to make technology that's better than Tony's, and then he gets finally the financial wealth to do that from Justin Hammer, and then he just he caused some terror in New York. Nobody died, or very little,
lots of property.
and then he died. Yeah, a lot of property, but that wasn't his goal. His goal was to damage Tony Stark's legacy, which he failed to do. He actually created he actually boosted Tony's ego, which is the worst thing he could do. But yeah,
and I also like his plan also of like, oh, if he does lose, to just have all of the all of the drones be bombs. What a bad plan. Why not just set them off immediately? Why give them this countdown?
yeah, I was very confused at how they even flew. Anyways, didn't he say they weren't ready? Wasn't there literally a scene before that where he called Hammer? He's like, they're not ready.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been a lie, but
right, that probably was a lie because Hammer's an idiot. Yeah. That's what he was meant to be. But yeah. That final fight got worse for me, and I will say I want to go to another bad real quick before we get into that final fight. First 30 minutes to an hour of this film, I don't know what is happening. The first 30 minutes...
slow.
It's not even that. It's that we go from an expo where Stark has to boost his ego. He talks. Nothing significant happens. He has a Senate hearing. Cool. Tony uses his quippy dialogue.
Yeah,
I like some of it.
Funny,
but who cares? And then we go to Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix, where Tony's like, "I'm gonna take your car, man. I'm gonna drive it." I love when the driver just throws his helmet and stuff. I'm like, what is happening? Like the first hour, I'm like, this is really bad. There's no reason for any of why.
Yeah.
Why?
Elon Musk was somewhere in there.
Right, Elon Musk. I mean, I just nothing happens. We were talking about it after the Spider-Man trailer. I think we only saw footage from the first half of that trailer, from the first hour of that movie.
Yeah.
Compare the first hour of what that movie's probably going to be to Iron Man 2, and it's Stratosphere is better. Yeah. It's the first hour it's slow, like you were saying, but it's also doesn't make a lot of sense. It is weird and all over the place.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
And the final bad I got, I don't know if you got any. The last battle, it's just I used to like it.
Yeah, I always
but it was
remember
bad.
It being much longer, and it was literally over. And when we talk about Ivan versus Rhodey and Tony, it was over in no joke a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Could you imagine? In Avengers Endgame, they beat Thanos in less than a minute.
That would be so underwhelming. I felt so underwhelmed when he lost in a minute.
Yeah. I'm
like, he got all that tech for no reason. But oh wait, there's a bomb. Oh, Tony's obviously gonna save Pepper. There's no. Yeah. Obviously I don't want any of the characters to die, but I never feel tense.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably this movie's biggest thing is it lacks stake.
Absolutely.
I think that's its biggest problem is there's no stakes in this movie. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have much more you want to talk about this movie because I don't. It's not a good movie.
I think I'm going to give it a rated. I think the lowest I gave a movie was The Dark World. I gave it a 5.5. I gave Thor a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna say this is a 5.5. I'm gonna put it where the Dark World is. I think this is probably at this point a bottom three MCU. So the Incredible Hulk, Thor: The Dark World, and Iron Man 2. That's a pretty bad film, all around.
Yeah.
Not a lot of redeeming qualities except its underlying story about Tony and his health problems.
Yeah. And so I gave my current lowest was Thor: The Dark World at an 18 out of 50. It now is Iron Man 2 with a 15 out of 50. So
Interesting.
really
That
bad.
yeah, just
And I think to go into a little bit more specifically, and I even told Drew this, everything, because I judge on plot, characters, villains, comedy, and action. Everything just plummeted with score. And I think before it was like a 25 or 26, so it dropped almost like 10 to like 12 points.
yeah, it was a pretty boring movie to watch.
Yes, because you let's do this. So I think easily my favorite movie that we've rewatched. Oh, I accidentally just unplugged everything. But I think my favorite movie that we have watched has by far been Black Panther. Love Black Panther. And 1 second. Can you talk real fast? Oh, never mind. Sorry, I
Okay.
accidentally unplugged my headphones. But I'd say my favorite movie was Black Panther that we watched. Right? Can we agree on that?
Yeah, it's always been a top tier MCU for me. So yeah,
And so this has been by far my least favorite, and I think they both share one common trait. I felt every single minute of both movies, but Black Panther, you felt every single minute in a great way.
yeah,
Every minute felt deserved. Every minute felt meaningful. I don't think there's a single bit of downtime in Black Panther where I was just like, "Oh my god, can we move this along?" I felt in
this movie
Iron Man,
just is downtime.
this movie feels like downtime. The only important thing of this movie is the mention of the Avengers Initiative. That's it. Everything else, I'm just like, can we please move on? Can we please go past this
We do
movie?
see an unfinished Captain America shield.
Yeah, well, Easter egg. But
Easter egg right there.
but yeah, that's where I'm at about this movie. Is it feels like a push, like oh, like let me tell you this, like when I introduce people to the MCU, I always say the best way to introduce is release order. Because if you do it in timeline order, post credit scenes don't make sense, timeline doesn't make sense. Timeline makes sense, but it's better just to watch it in release because that's not only how everyone else had to watch it, but it's just a better way. It's better, easy flow. You're not sticking with someone for too long. You're not staying away from someone for too long like you are with Captain Marvel. Again, when you watch timeline wise, you meet Captain Marvel and you don't see her for another like 20 something movies.
Right.
But with release, you're getting her like movie to back and whatnot. And honestly, Phase 1, except Iron Man, even a lot of Iron Man, but First Avenger and the Avengers movie are great. Everything else just feels like just push through it, and then the rest is just great. You have some oddballs like Thor: The Dark World and um, Ant-Man and the Wasp that just aren't great.
Right. When you
Watch,
compare them to their phase, yeah.
yeah, aren't they're watchable, but you'd rather not.
Yeah, correct.
And I very much intentionally kept out Captain Marvel. She's in our upcoming rewatch. So anything can change about that movie with me. So yeah, this just feels like a push. It feels like you just gotta get through it. Just like bite your finger and get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough watch, but next week, Alex, I be continuing with Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and watching rewatching Iron Man 3. We're really excited for that. Um, so now we're going to transition into What If Episode 3. I'm really excited to talk about this episode. I think it's my favorite episode of the show so far.
Really?
Alex, yeah, Alex, what do you think of this episode?
I thought this was the worst episode by far. I
Really?
I think when we look at it, I think I rate the What If episodes on a scale of 1 to 10. I think episode 1 was a good 8 out of 10. It was a good episode. Then episode 2 was a 10 out of 10. It was a perfect episode. Loved it. This episode felt like a 5 out of 10. I was very much bored during this movie. I didn't care about anyone dying, which felt really weird. Because if you know my reactions, like if you saw my facial expressions when Iron Man died, Black Widow died, all these people died when I first watched them in things like Endgame and whatnot, I was like heartbroken. When they died in this, I was just like, why? Yeah, the end was cool. Like Nick Fury and Loki working together was great, but everything else, like the Avengers dying, I was just like, I didn't care. I don't know why. I didn't care. So
I think I totally disagree. I think them dying was really interesting and neat, especially since we know what uh, like the journeys that these characters go through, and like in this universe we don't get to see that. Obviously, we as the audience saw it already, but like when Tony died at the beginning of the episode, it's like, oh my god, what just happened? I'm like, did Natasha do it? Natasha do it? And then like, oh, Natasha didn't do it. I was so kept up with who was doing this. Who is doing this? Why are they doing this? Then we see who is the second one to die? Thor die with Hawkeye's arrow. And I'm like, what's happening? Then Hawkeye's dead. I'm like, yo, what is going on? Then Loki came. Loki, of course, voiced by the great Tom Hiddleston. Very excited to see that. And this episode did also focus a lot on Nick Fury. This was mostly a Nick Fury episode and Phil Coulson.
which, by the way, this Phil Coulson is gay. Like, come on now, he's gay. Like,
Steve.
Steve.
I heard Steve.
Yes, Steve. I heard Steve. Like, oh my goodness, love him in the
He's the best.
Yeah.
Phil Coulson's the best. But yeah, I thought that it was all intriguing. Like, and then Hulk, like the way Hulk died was so like I was like, oh,
That man blew up from the inside.
I was like, what's just happened? And then Natasha, I'm like, okay, so it's Hank Pym. Of course, it was Hank Pym, right? And funny enough, I didn't know if you knew this, but Hope died in Odessa, Ukraine.
Yes. The place where the Winter Soldier shot through Natasha. Bye bikinis.
Bucky killed Hope.
Well, okay, we don't know, but come on, they can't say They can't say a location like that and can't make us think it's not Bucky.
Bucky Barnes.
Again, it's not 100% confirmed, but come on, that's what they were.
Bucky.
That's what they were implying. And if they say
That's Bucky.
if they say that they weren't implying that, they're full of shit.
Right. Yeah, and then Hank in the yellow jacket suit. So we got to think about like what doesn't happen in this.
Yeah.
What doesn't happen in this universe?
Well,
no Ant-Man.
Well, no, not even that. First of all, nothing from Thor 1 forward happens.
Right.
Nothing. No Thanos. No Guardians may still happen, but
Thanos still might come.
who knows? Because he might come, but he might come in 2013 because he has, he knows where the Tesseract is. He knows where the Mind Stone is. He knows where the Power Stone is. He knows where all the stones are right now. Other than the Soul Stone and Reality Stone, because that's still in the ether. Everything it's as his easiest point right now to go and get it now. It's crazy. Basically, phases 1 through 4, or 2 through 4, never happen. Or
just nullified.
Yeah, nothing. Again, You can exclude maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but still.
Yeah, I thought honestly I didn't think the twist was gonna happen
Mm.
with Hank. I was like, whoa, Hank Pym, no
I
way.
thought
That's
I thought it was Hope. That's who
I did too.
I was like
I did too.
I was like Hope is a bit young to be doing this though. I mean she'd probably be in like her 20s right by like early 20s right now,
Yeah.
but who knows? I was like Hank, what?
Hank Pym. Well, I could see Hank doing it. Hank's a little cranky old man. He looked scary.
Yes.
He looked scary. And then we had, of course, the iconic, Loki laugh, ha ha ha, with Nick Fury and stuff. That was great. And then the end of the episode, finally, my boy finally won, took over the Earth.
Yeah. And then we see at the end.
That's not lasting too long, by the way.
Oh no! In that universe, no way. Well, not even that because not Thor, Nick Fury assembles Captain Marvel and America. So
Right.
yeah.
Which, like, what is that? That can't be the only two he has. So, like,
Well, if you also want to know a fun fact,
Bucky, maybe somehow, or
no, hold on. So they were talking.
Namor.
Stop. Shush. So they were talking about how nobody could move the hammer, but so when they were picking up the radiation from the hammer, I think they said it was Vita rays, and that was the key component in making Steve a super soldier. So could the Vita rays and Mjolnir be linked?
Maybe, but my question then, why couldn't he lift it in Age of Ultron?
He could.
There you go.
He could. Are you brand new?
He didn't lift it.
It's because he said that he thought it was Thor's thing, so he didn't want to stomp on Thor's ego. But he'll stomp on Tony's though.
That's a stupid reason for a guy not to lift a hammer. I'm sorry. That's stupid.
Oh no. No. I agree with you. I think of all the amount of times that Steve could have used Mjolnir to his advantage to win. Nah, Thor would get mad at that. No, Thor wouldn't.
Josh Whedon, you wouldn't have shot it at Steve trying to pull his hardest with, like, his facial expressions, the way he was pulling the hammer, and then come out and say, he wasn't trying, he just didn't want to show Thor up. Like, that's...
Well, guess what? You go tell the Age of Ultron writers and the Russos that they're stupid.
Yeah, I will.
Because they made that decision.
I will. Hey, Joe and Anthony Russo, if you're watching, you're wrong. There you go.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. Yeah. Just say he couldn't lift it because of the Tony secret. He knew that Bucky killed his parents. Just say that.
I don't know.
That's a lot better explanation. That's stupid. By the way, what Avenger death were you most surprised with in this episode?
Hawkeye's. He just died.
Oh yeah.
He legit.
Yeah, he just died.
I thought, he was being unresponsive, and then he was like, he's being unresponsive because he's dead.
Plus, we also see the conversation Natasha and Nick have before they go and see Tony and Iron Man 2 at the donut shop.
Yeah.
Where Nick Fury practices his there was an idea.
It's my favorite TikTok audio, by the way. The Infinity War trailer when they have Tony, Thor, Vision, and Natasha reading it or saying it. Favorite audio. Love it.
Yeah, I thought Loki was good. I thought he's always good in everything he is in. I love how he helped Nick, and then it's just like, yeah, I'm just taking over this planet. I'm like, Loki's gonna be good in this universe. He's like, nope.
Yeah, nope. Ruler of Earth.
Ruler of Earth.
Which is probably not gonna last long, but.
No, Captain Marvel is that's
way stronger than Loki.
And then you got Captain America. It's a crazy team. Cap and then Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I think it's my favorite episode. I love the mystery aspect of it. Just like going through, a Fury's Big Week, which we finally, I think there was a prelude comic that showed the days, but I never knew the days it happened on. So now, like, we know that's a crazy week.
Yeah, well, it's called Fury's Big Week for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just imagine watching the TV when all this stuff is happening. 3 superheroes 1 week?
I know. That is how I think someone should be shown these movies. Is those 3 movies all in one day? That.
Yeah.
Because then you could. Well, I don't think one day. Maybe like show them like on the days of like Monday, Tuesday, and all that. So.
Yeah. So Iron Man 2 is Monday. Thor is Tuesday. What was Wednesday?
Hulk.
Yeah. And then the Hope thing. I think they see Hank on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. But it was also nice to see like the Incredible Hulk. We haven't seen that like.
Yeah, I wish. I wish he would have been voiced by Ed Norton instead. It was Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, I was like, they went for more of the Ruffalo look. I think with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm like, ooh! Before he came out, I'm like, what are they gonna do here? You know, because we think of that movie, you think of Edward Norton, obviously, and they didn't do that, obviously, so because it's not playing that role anymore. But yeah, I thought it was really good. Probably my favorite episode. Next week is Supreme Doctor Strange. Which is going to be crazy.
Cannot wait.
But I don't know how this episode of What If plays into the larger, like, what seems to be a telling of stories of these individual heroes that are going to culminate into, like, the last episode. I don't think all of the episodes are showing us that one hero. I think that some of these are just one-offs, like Marvel Zombies. I think that's just going to be a one-off type of deal. Like, we already know there's a Tony and Killmonger. Obviously, they got to set up Killmonger as, like, Tony, let's just say hypothetically, which would be cool. Tony builds Killmonger an Iron Man suit, but, like, with Wakandan tech, with, like, the arc reactor. That would be cool. And then we have, obviously, T'Challa Star-Lord, Gamora, Captain Carter, and Supreme Doctor Strange all fight this multiversal being. Which the Watcher keeps repeating, I will not interfere. He's going to interfere. It's what he does in the comics all the time, so.
Yeah, I think also something that I'm looking forward to, okay? Hear me out. I'm looking forward to more and more is, what's it called? I'm trying to think. I can't think right now. I'm bad at thinking on the spot. I can't remember. But, man. What If is such a weird show for me. It was definitely like a show that I think was a risk for the MCU at the time. But I also think, like, everybody, like, when they heard they were doing a What If show, like, oh, who cares? Like, it's probably not going to be it's probably going to be not canon. It's probably just going to be for fun. No, it's canon, and it's, like, one of the biggest shows right now, which is crazy. So, I don't know. If you got anything else to say about this episode, then...
Yeah, I'm going to just say it. After the first 3 episodes, I don't think this is a hot take. I think it's better than The Bad Batch.
The T'Challa episode is better than the entirety of The Bad Batch.
I'm sorry, and listen, I love Star Wars, but this is better. Not just because it has familiar characters, but I think this episode alone, just as a mystery type of episode, with the twist, is better than what The Bad Batch has done.
Let me tell you this.
Sorry, that's sad.
Could you imagine this show with the Clone Wars animation?
Insane. I think it works for this show.
Oh,
like
yeah.
how
I think the 2D works, but could you imagine?
sometimes it definitely feels like cartoonish, but I don't mind that. That's what it's supposed to feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're like, oh, this just feels cartoonish, but I like it. It's good.
I agree.
All right. So, Alex, I think it's time to get into our smaller topics, and the first smaller topic I'm about to get into is a report. So it's been rumored for a while now that Dominique Thorne It's Riri Williams, who is going to play Ironheart. It's going to debut in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And last week, Kevin Feige, when he was doing a press tour for Shang-Chi, which he didn't even talk about that movie because nobody asked questions about that movie, he mentioned that he mentions here in the second paragraph that we're shooting Black Panther Wakanda Forever right now. And the character of Riri Williams you will meet in Black Panther 2 first, Feige said in an interview surrounding the release of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. She started shooting, I think, this week before her Ironheart series. So obviously, this is, so it says in the next paragraph, Riri Williams is a teen-aged engineer genius who designs her own version of an Iron Man suit following her father's death. She lives with her mother and her aunt in Chicago. At 15 years old, she gets herself accepted into MIT. Actually, guys, this week, Black Panther 2 was filming at MIT, and we got some looks at Shuri, Okoye, and Riri Williams. So they've been filming there for about 4 or 5 days. And actually, the actor who plays Shuri was hospitalized. She got injured today. Yeah, so she might play a bigger role than we think. Alex, I know you're a big Iron Man fan. How do you feel about Riri Williams taking over the role as Tony Stark, or Iron Man?
I am excited. I haven't read anything from her from the comics. I just know a lot of people are excited, and that excites me. Yeah, I think, honestly, I'm happy that it's not Spider-Man filling in for him. I'm happy it's going to be someone else. So that to me is where I'm at. And, you know, by all technical accounts, I mean, she could be a young Avenger for all we know. So, because again, if she's 15 in this movie, 15 like she's in the comics, like, young Avenger right there. And again, I think it's also because I see a lot of fans now on TikTok talking about you know, it wouldn't feel right for her to be the new Iron Man. But I also think, like, why not? The thing that I think so many people have, I think the thing that's going to be, for people that's going to be hard, is we've been attached to Tony Stark, you know, and this is something for me. I've only been attached to Tony Stark coming up for only a year. Of course, I've watched the Marvel movies, like, before, like, on TV and whatnot, but never like I do right now. But for some people, they have been connected to Tony Stark since 2008 in the MCU. And to have someone else, especially someone who's young, like 15 years old, replace Tony Stark, be just as or even smarter than Tony Stark, it's going to be hard for people to get a hold of. And I honestly think, like, you say this a lot when we talk about how would you feel about this. If it's done right, I don't care. Like, do it right, and you got me hooked. So that's where I'm at. I'm okay with it. I personally think that it would have been cool to see her and Tony interact, but beggars can't be choosers.
Right. So I agree with you. The execution is huge to me. And I think what's going to happen with the Riri Williams character is that I think she's going to be Wakandan. I think they're going to alter her backstory a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if she steals some tech from Wakanda to make her own suit or something like that. And, like, Koye and Shuri got to go after her or something along those lines. Or Shuri's like, oh, this girl here at MIT, we need to build her a suit or something like that. Something along those lines. I think it would make a lot of sense if she was Wakandan. Yeah. I think that would make the most sense, in my opinion.
You know, with potentially Namor coming in, do you think that what could spill into her series is someone getting quips of an Iron Man 2.0 coming into existence? And that's how we have it. And honestly, you know what honestly scares me the most about her series is what if she kind of gets the Spider-Man treatment and it's just Iron Man villains.
Right. Yeah.
And it's something that scares me because the MCU, man, it plays with you. I'll tell you that because this will be the first, or No Way Home is going to be the first Spider-Man MCU movie that does not have a Tony Stark led villain for Peter to fight. Because again,
Well,
well,
I mean,
could
they're
be,
technically Toby and Andrew's villains, but yeah, he hasn't had a
but
real villain.
but I think the big affinity is like it's a Spider-Man villain, in general,
Right.
general
Right.
Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
Now, would I have preferred that we finally get MCU Peter to get actual villains? Yes, but I think, and hey, who's to say that the Lizard and Sandman that we see are from Andrew or Toby's universe? They could be completely new people.
Right.
So, and Electro, even though we know it's Jamie Foxx, we don't. Who knows if it's Jamie Foxx from an alternate universe? Because again, it's different Lightning, so it could be different Electro. So, which by the way, I know I didn't get to talk about this a lot when we did the No Way Home trailer. It is a weird change that they changed his Lightning. Like really strange that they changed it to his comic and video game.
I like it better. I think it just fits better.
It looks better, but so yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm excited for Ironheart to show up first in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, I really am too. I don't know again what her role is going to be, but I would like it if there's kind of a setup of like her villain maybe Ryzen, like somebody who hates Wakanda and like hates that Wakandan is now taking over Iron Man's role, or like something along those lines, or like I'd like to see her villain kind of set up in this. I don't know what her role is going to be again. Again, some people are saying it's bigger, some people are saying it's smaller, that it's a cameo type of deal. But if they're filming at MIT like they were, there were chase scenes. I mean, Shuri, the actor who plays Shuri, got hurt. So they must have been doing something physical. There might be fights or something. I'm not sure. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I don't know much about the character, which I like, which means I get to explore a whole new character. And yeah, I'm pumped if she's the new Iron Man for the Young Avengers. Like you said, I don't want it to be Tom Spider-Man. I want Tom Spider-Man to be his own thing. He's his own character.
Yeah, I agree. Agree.
Yeah, so the next Marvel topic we're going to get into is by the great Lizzie Hill. She does some good work over at the Cosmic Circus. She reported a couple weeks ago on the Werewolf by Night rumor that there's going to be a show for Werewolf by Night who's going to appear in Moon Knight. So she's got an exclusive about Captain America 4. So obviously last week, I think it was made official by the Hollywood Trades that Anthony Mackie has signed on the dotted line. And in the second paragraph here, she says, I can exclusively report through multiple reliable sources that the current plans are to have Captain America 4 begin prep in 2022 and start filming in June of 2022 in Georgia. Plans, of course, can change, especially this early out, but this comes from reliable sources, so I am confident enough to report on it here today. So, Alex, to me, this makes a lot of sense if he signed on the dotted line. It was literally rumored right after that Captain America 4 was going to happen, after the final episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier is basically confirmed. Alex, with Captain America 4, if it films in this 2022 time period, I assume it will come out in 2023? Like the middle to later half of 2023? What do you think about Mackie starring in his own movie as Captain America?
I'm excited. I first of all love his Captain America suit, except for the cowl. I also think he just has a lot to bring to the role of Captain America. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm intrigued who the villain is going to be. Something that I think would be a. Do you remember Torres? Walker?
Yeah.
That would be an interesting villain. Have him, take over as Falcon, like he does in the comics, but now have him be a bad guy. That would be an interesting villain. Or even have John Walker come back as the bad guy. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I also like I also like how it is gonna be still a part of Steve Rogers' Captain America. They're not just gonna make it two separate things. So really happy about that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited that Mackie is coming back. Obviously, I enjoy the Falcon and the Winter Soldier more than actually most people do. I think most people are uh, really hard on that show, and it wasn't their favorite MCU show. It's not my favorite, but I don't think it's the worst out of the three that have been released so far, live action wise. But I'm really excited as you are. I hope Sebastian comes back, obviously, and plays Bucky uh, alongside Anthony
But
Mackie.
then let me ask
I,
you, does he die?
uh,
I think it's time.
I think it would make a lot of sense if he. It would do a lot for Captain America, Anthony Mackie's Captain America. It'd be a big character moment for him.
I think it's time.
Kind of like it kind of will parallel. It's like poetry. It rhymes, and it parallel what it did to Steve after Bucky died in the first Avenger. Died. I'm not saying Bucky will become the Winter Soldier again, but like it would hurt Mackie's morale and
Yeah.
yeah, I think it would make sense for Sam to lose Bucky. Kind of like how it affected Cap in the first Avenger when he lost Bucky.
Yeah.
And then what I would love, Chris Evans to come back as old man Cap and kind of have that motivational speech to Sam if he lost Bucky. I think it would make a lot of sense.
My goodness, what if Steve Rogers dies in the movie?
Or it could be Steve. Yeah, it could.
Oh my god, stop. We need to stop putting this negative energy out there.
I'm going to say this. They're being really weird with the character of Steve Rogers. Like, we don't know if he's dead or not. We didn't see him in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What are they doing with him?
Right.
Is he dead? I think it would make a lot of sense, though, if, like, he died and he was, like, sort of, like... I don't want Captain America 4 to be, like, Cap second-guessing himself, because that's basically what The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was about. Him second-guessing himself about being Captain America. Kind of want Captain America 4 to be about him just being Captain America. But if he lost Steve, just have that, like, I'm the only Captain America now. Like, I have to live up to this. It's just about me. Like, something like that I think would be good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that honestly, you know, Falcon and the Winter Soldier for me was a bit of a letdown. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Villains weren't very good, but I think honestly a great thing to have come back is start off with a big bang movie like Captain America 4, or like any movie, and just I want a big death. You know how I am about death. I think death is needed in these things because, you know, again, I talk about the Arrowverse a lot, and I think the Arrowverse suffers from this. They don't take death well, aka they just revive everyone. Everyone comes back to life eventually in the Arrowverse. If you ever die in the Arrowverse, you're coming back to life eventually. It's just a given. Um, and I think the MCU's done pretty well at that, where they don't bring back dead people permanently. Of course, we go back and we see people like Crossbones. He's alive in Endgame because they go back in time and whatnot, or Rumlow, uh, Ancient One, and all that. But they don't stay alive. They serve purpose, and I hope that we get a meaningful death, because I think that's what almost every MCU film goes through, is a meaningful character moment. And I don't know. It's just Bucky or Steve, man, they gotta go.
Yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense, and it would kind of, if Steve dies, it's like, oh, I'm the only Captain America. Just that realization, like, I can't lean on Steve anymore. It's about me. He becomes Captain America in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but does he really believe it? He still has a mentor, but once he loses that mentor, it's time for him to leave the nest and finally fulfill
And
his
I
his
honestly
duties.
I honestly, now thinking about that, think a pretty good story could be, he said to Bucky in episode 5 that, it doesn't matter what Steve thinks. Now if Steve dies, well, now what is he gonna feel? Because now Steve's dead. Now he really doesn't matter because he's not here to say anything to him. So
Right.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
And if Bucky dies, he loses his sidekick. He loses like his probably his biggest support system. So yeah, that would be tough. So I think either way that would be good. And I don't know about a villain. John Walker would be interesting, but we kind of saw that already. So again, what's great about Sam Wilson's Captain America is he doesn't have the serum, so he could just lose to a street level thug. Like he could lose to literally anyone.
Well,
I mean,
anyone. He's Captain America.
he had a tough fight against Batroc, the Leaper.
Not really. He kind of outbested him pretty easily.
He had a pretty tough fight with him.
I don't think so.
That was a tough fight for him.
No, it wasn't. Come on. Come on.
It was
I
a
think,
tough fight for him.
I think Steve Rogers had a tougher fight with him.
Nah.
Yeah. Yeah. He knocked Cap back a lot.
But the thing is like we knew Steve would get back up with Sam Wilson. When I think about it, like why I like his Captain America is he feels more vulnerable than Steve ever was. Like Sam, I'm like, oh, he could lose to that guy like really easily.
One of them,
With
one of them,
Steve, I'm like,
one of them's
gonna get up.
One of them is a super soldier. One of them isn't.
Right? Yeah. Again, but that's why I'm not saying I like Sam's Captain America better, but like that's one quality I like about Sam's Cap over Steve's. Is he feels more vulnerable.
Agree.
So I guess it's now time to transition into the Star Wars talk. So this comes from the hashtag show. It's a rumor, so take it as you will. Nick Santos, I believe. Yes, Nick Santos from the hashtag show. He says that this week we could share that it appears John Boyega's Finn may be getting an upcoming Disney Plus series. It had previously been announced that J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens were working on a Star Wars film. I believe this came out last year from the Hollywood Trades. So he continues and says, according to multiple inside sources, that movie concept is now being repurposed as a series. J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens are still attached and have since retooled the movie to now be a longer form Disney Plus series focusing on Finn. Plot details are light on it. We know it's going to be post Rise of Skywalker, and it will have some prequel elements, so some flashbacks, obviously, to his time in the First Order. There's no word on Daisy or Oscar yet, so yeah. So this is a rumor, so let's treat it as that for right now. But I, over the past week, was really excited about this. The idea of even this happening. I think Finn in The Force Awakens is great. He's probably might be one of the better characters in that movie, and then his character kind of just goes downhill from there, in my opinion. So I would love a show with him. I think John Boyega is great. Yeah, and I'd love to explore his Force abilities. I think it'd be a great time to explore that. Alex, what do you think about this rumor of a Finn Disney Plus show?
He's a character who I never really liked. He was enjoyable in almost every movie he's in, but he's not a character where I'm just like, he needs a TV show. I think any sequel TV show should definitely be the in-between of episode 8 and 9. I think it's a development for the characters that we need the most. So overall for me, I'm not overly excited. I'm happy we're going to get more Finn, but I wish it was during a different time period.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. What would you want, what stories would you want between 8 and 9?
I just think more stories of him, Poe, and Rey as the big three is needed, because we're kind of just put in the middle of them in episode 9. We're basically told that, hey, they've been riding side by side together for a year. You don't get to see any of it, but here you go.
Kind of like the Clone Wars thing, tell the story of those 3 years with Anakin and Obi-Wan. Yeah, I think that's fair, but I also think it'd be cool to explore these characters post Rise of Skywalker. Obviously, Lucasfilm is definitely interested in telling these stories post Rise of Skywalker, and I think Finn is a character that he is one of the big three of that trilogy, and he doesn't have any ties to anything. It's just he's a stormtrooper who is force sensitive, most likely. It's very heavily alluded to. So,
Well, he is.
I
He is. It's been confirmed. That's what he wanted to tell Rey.
yeah, okay. So, I don't know why they just didn't outwardly say it, but
Well,
yeah,
it's the Rise of Skywalker. What do you want from it?
right. So, I think that would be really interesting to explore. I think he's one of the more interesting concepts in Star Wars, a stormtrooper to a Jedi. That's fascinating. And if you can tell that in a TV show, yeah, and I think John Boyega is great. Like, I think John Boyega has the potential to be the Chadwick Boseman of Star Wars, just with his personality, how gracious he is. I think John's great. One of my favorite people to listen to, just talk in interviews.
Yeah.
And I think Oscar worked on Moon Knight. And I wonder if he called up John and said, hey, I'm loving it. Maybe you would like to work on a Disney Plus show. Because I know John said, you ain't got to Disney Plus me. But he's changed his attitude recently. He said, I'd work on Star Wars again if Kathy was involved. And we'll talk about Kathleen Kennedy a little bit later with the Mandalorian Season 2 gallery thing. Yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense for Finn to get his own show. Develop him out. Maybe he gets to meet up with Rey, and then he trains at the academy with Rey. Maybe we get our first signs of that. But I just love to explore Finn's character more. One of the more interesting concepts in Star Wars.
Yeah, and I even think that if they go the route of the in-between 8 and 9, I think something that we could get is when they're going on missions, Finn kind of gets these, like, hunches on what to do. He kind of just, like, when they're kind of, like, when it's, say, just, like, him and Poe or someone on a mission, him and Rose on a mission, he can kind of get, like, a feeling of, like, they should probably not go that way, or something like that. So, yeah, I'd be down for it. I would love to see John come back. Really, really would want to see him come back, honestly.
Definitely. I think he deserves some redemption after, especially the Rise of Skywalker. That was
Bad.
they did do a lot of his character justice. And the TLJ, his story, I wouldn't say his story was bad. It's just that it was like the least interesting part of the film.
Underwhelming compared to Force Awakens.
Oh, Force Awakens is great. He might be like, I mean, dude, they literally put Finn with a lightsaber in that poster, and then nothing. I get nothing. Probably the most disappointing thing from that trilogy, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And, okay, so now we're going to transition, into the Mandalorian Season 2 gallery. The finale of that. Talked about the finale and the Luke Skywalker specifically in that finale. Spoiler alert. But I want to just start off by saying my favorite part was Plo Koon.
Yes.
The mask, that was so funny to me that the code name for Luke Skywalker was Plo Koon. Obviously, Dave loves Plo. What did you think about that?
I actually want to say I forgot the gallery came out today, and What If came out, so I watched all of it, no joke, an hour before we came live. So, or I finished an hour before we went live, so I enjoyed it. I didn't know it was Mark under the... it wasn't Mark, but it was Mark.
Right.
The final things that we see were not Mark, but he was used as reference. So
yeah, it wasn't his voice either. It was just like a bunch of
audio
voices they took
from a game.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it was an engine that created that.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And I love, okay, I want to go into this. Star Wars is in great hands with John and Dave. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
These guys care. These guys really care.
Yeah.
I love what John says in the beginning. He's like, I see how older fans love how connected, and he feels like he has to respect these characters. I feel like John and Dave are doing that perfectly. Uh, I don't I don't think Star Wars ever needed saving. But just for me personally, Star Wars was like a past thing. It was just like I felt like things were getting milked. I just think it wasn't going the direction that I really cared for at the time. But The Mandalorian brought me back into it. It feels like the original trilogy. It feels like the Star Wars I'm familiar with. And I think they've done a great job of bringing those familiar elements, treating them with respect and care. And you see how much they collaborate. I mean, they both know. And I love how they're talking about the execution. He's like, Dave's like, we gave you all the signs that it's Luke Skywalker, but it's the face that really sells it. Like, even though, say, the face isn't great, I'm still sold that it's Luke Skywalker.
I want to tell you this. They went through multiple faces that they were going to use, and there were just so many better options. I do not know why they went with the one that they went with. So many better hair options, lighting options. I don't know what went wrong. Who decided that the one that we got was acceptable?
Yeah, but again, it still feels like Luke Skywalker. It's not the face. It felt like Luke, the movements. And I loved Mark. Mark's great. Just him gushing over Grogu and being on set.
I like how they went to his house and made him get in costume.
Yeah.
And they gave him the Grogu puppet. I'm telling you, I laughed so hard. I was like, oh my gosh. Why? It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, definitely. And I just love seeing what type of tech they used to make it. Obviously, Peyton Reed, who directed this episode, directed both the Ant-Mans, is directing Ant-Man Quantumania right now. So they used a different technology, obviously. They took a bunch of faces, and then they tried to find... Yeah, they tried to find the best face possible, and again, it doesn't look fantastic, but I love what John talked about how him as a creator is trying to use this technology in a good way, and how creators with these products should try to use them in a good way and teach people how to recognize when it's not, and when it's like, because it's going to get to a point where you're not going to recognize the difference.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Just crushed my finger. Yeah, I thought I thought it was really interesting, John's stance on it all, but yeah, I enjoyed the gallery. I really liked it.
I definitely did too. So, I'll transition now into our final topic. This comes from the people over at Bespin Bulletin. They got an exclusive that Andor, which seems like it's been filming for centuries, has finally finished filming. So they can confirm, as of August 20th, multiple cast members had wrapped. Diego Luna, who is the main character of the show, has wrapped. And, that's awesome. This show has been filming since late November. Obviously, COVID, they had COVID delays. Excuse me. That they also had to film in England, which had a second surge in COVID. They also used a lot of real sets. They didn't film in the volume like Mando, Kenobi, and all the other Mandoverse shows will. So it was tough. They had to deal with the weather. It's 12 episodes. So this show, it was about a year of filming. And it's one of the more underrated projects, I think, in my opinion, Alex. I think we're underestimating the potential the show has. And now that it's done filming, I suspect that it comes out after Kenobi, especially if Kenobi has only 6 episodes and finished filming a week before. And it will take less time to edit because of the volume. It's not practical.
Yeah.
So, Alex, what do you think about this show? And like, where do you expect it to go? I mean, there's a lot of filming, so what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I think honestly the show's too early to tell. For me personally, at least, I think with Kenobi and whatnot and Ahsoka, you kind of have a general idea of what's gonna happen. But for Andor, I don't know. I hope we see a more grittier side of the rebellion, but um, yeah, I don't know. I don't. We need some more information before I can make a concrete guess of what's gonna happen.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if we got some type of teaser at Disney Plus Day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm really excited for this show. I think Diego Luna is great as Cassian, and I don't want this show just to be about Cassian. I think this show as a whole is going to be more about the rebellion.
Yeah.
Obviously, we get that in Star Wars Rebels a little bit. We get a cell of the rebellion, but I think what Andor is going to be about is the larger rebellion as a whole. How the rebellion even has different thought processes. Obviously, as Mon Mothma is more of the pacifist, he doesn't want to fight. We're going to have Cassian and his side that probably, is going to go into dogfights. Is going to be a spy. I want this show to be darker. Like Rogue One is a pretty dark movie when you compare it to the rest of Star Wars. So I suspect this project will be darker, probably visually and probably in its tone. Yeah, I just want to see like the rebellion have to do things that aren't great.
Yeah.
They have to cut corners. They have to, maybe even kill people, right? They have to sacrifice something. They're not just the good jolly old folks. They're terrorists, as we talk about. They're terrorists to a government, and that's the actions they have to take if they want to spark a rebellion. Obviously, we're going to see Saw Gerrera again. So I think Andor, it's not just going to focus on the character of Cassian, it's going to focus on all the pieces of the rebellion throughout the galaxy.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. And Saw Gerrera is in everything. Name me a Star Wars project
Yes.
that he's not in.
The original trilogy.
Okay. Name me a show he's not in.
The sequel trilogy. Oh, that's not a show. Mandalorian and Resistance.
He's dead by that point. How about
Right.
how about when he's alive?
Um,
He's in Clone Wars. He's in Bad Batch. He's in Rebels.
it's in everything, man.
It's been Saw Gerrera all along. He's
Yeah.
everywhere. He's in your nightmares. Like
Oh, it definitely is.
you'll see him
Um,
everywhere you go.
yeah, I suspect this show will come out after Kenobi. I'm not sure if it will come out before the Bad Batch season 2, but it's going to come out after Kenobi. So, summer, fall of probably 2022, we will get this show. Alex and I, of course, will be covering it when it comes out. We'll be doing reactions. So, guys, that's going to do it for the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back next Wednesday. As long as there's no trailers. There were 2 trailers this week Alex and I reacted to. Busy week here at the Wars of the Stars podcast. We'll be back next Wednesday to talk about Iron Man 3 and What If Episode 4 and whatever other news for Star Wars and Marvel there is out there. So until next time, we will see you all then. Peace.
Hold on. Just try that again. End stream.